"My wife doesn't want you at the wedding," said the cattleman's son. They never expected that. The sun was just beginning to dip behind the rolling hills of the cattle ranch, painting the sky in soft oranges and pinks. The smell of hay and leather filled the air, mixed with the faint aroma of grilled food from the barn kitchen. Inside the ranch house, there was a quiet flurry of activity. Today was the day Luke, the only son of the well-known cattleman in the county, was getting married. The house was alive with the sound of laughter, footsteps, and the occasional clatter of dishes being moved from one room to another. Friends and family had started arriving early, eager to see the bride, Sarah, and to celebrate the union that had been talked about for months. Luke moved through the crowd, shaking hands, nodding to guests, and making sure everyone felt welcome. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and had the calm confidence of someone who had grown up on the ranch, learning how to handle cattle and horses from the ground up. But today, beneath his composed exterior, there was a subtle tension he couldn't shake. Weddings were supposed to be happy, uncomplicated events, but somehow, he had a feeling this one might not go exactly as planned. Sarah, his bride-to-be, was flitting around in her soft white dress, smiling politely at distant relatives while quietly checking on the arrangements for the evening. She had grown up in the same town as Luke, but had spent the last few years studying in the city. She was excited to marry him, of course, but something seemed to weigh on her heart today. She moved toward the side of the barn where the tables were being set up, frowning slightly at a small group of guests she didn't recognize. Luke noticed her glance and followed her gaze. That's when he saw him, Alex. The man had a quiet presence, almost unnoticeable if you weren't paying attention, but now he stood at the edge of the gathering, surveying the scene. Alex had been a friend of Sarah's during high school, someone she had trusted and relied on when times were tough. They hadn't seen each other in years, but just seeing him now brought a visible flicker of discomfort to her face. Luke approached her, his brow furrowed. "Everything okay?" he asked gently. Sarah hesitated, then lowered her voice. "Luke, Alex is here. I don't want him at the wedding." Luke froze for a moment, taken aback. "What do you mean?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm. "Please just talk to him," Sarah said, biting her lip. "I appreciate that he wants to be here, but this day is about us. I don't want any old memories causing tension." Luke nodded, his mind racing. He knew Alex was a good person, or at least he hoped so, but he also knew that the bride's feelings had to come first. He squared his shoulders, walked over to where Alex was standing and spoke firmly, trying to mask the unease in his voice. "My wife doesn't want you at the wedding." Alex looked surprised, a flash of hurt crossing his features. He raised his hand slightly in a gesture of peace. "Wait, Luke, I didn't come here to cause trouble. I just wanted to see Sarah and make sure she's okay. That's all." Luke's jaw tightened. "I'm sure you didn't mean harm, but she made her feelings clear. I need you to respect that." There was a tense silence, broken only by the distant laughter of other guests. Alex nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of the situation, but his eyes betrayed a hint of longing, as if he wished things could be different. He took a small step back, giving space, and said quietly, "I understand. I'll leave if that's what she wants." Sarah, standing a few feet away, felt a mix of relief and guilt. She wanted to thank Alex for his years of friendship, for the quiet support he had offered her during her teenage years, but she knew that today was not the day for complicated emotions. She simply nodded, her hands twisting nervously in front of her. Luke, still wary, put a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Everything will be fine," he said, but even as he spoke, he couldn't shake the unease that had settled over him. Weddings were meant to be celebrations, and yet this small confrontation had created a ripple that threatened to disturb the calm. As the ceremony hour approached, the ranch workers began guiding guests to their seats. Children ran through the fields, laughing and kicking up dust, while older relatives found shade under the big oak trees, chatting quietly. The sun had dipped lower now, and the sky was a canvas of deepening reds and purples. Luke and Sarah walked together, making sure everything was in place, the tension slowly melting away as the beauty of the evening began to settle around them. Despite the lingering worry, there was a sense of anticipation in the air. Music started to play softly from a small band set up near the barn, and the smell of fresh bread and roasted meats drifted through the open doors. Guests began to take their seats, the chatter quieting down in preparation for the ceremony. Alex stayed near the edge of the gathering, respectful and quiet, observing the scene. He didn't speak to anyone, didn't draw attention, but his presence was noticeable. Luke kept an eye on him, watching the subtle expressions on his face, trying to gauge whether he would follow through on his promise to leave if needed. As Sarah stood at the entrance to the aisle, taking a deep breath and smoothing her dress, she felt Luke's hand on her back. He gave her a small, reassuring smile, and for a moment everything seemed right. The tension of the day, the unexpected appearance of Alex, the whispers of past memories, all of it faded into the background. The ranch, the fields, the soft music, the warm glow of the setting sun, it was all hers and Luke's day. Still, even as they began the ceremony, a quiet thought lingered in the back of her mind. Alex had been part of her life once, someone who had stood by her in difficult moments. His presence, though unintended to harm, reminded her of a past she had left behind. She knew she needed to focus on the present, on Luke, and on the life they were about to start together. Luke led Sarah down the aisle, his steps steady and confident, but his eyes flicked toward Alex one last time. Alex gave a small, almost imperceptible nod, a silent acknowledgement that he respected the boundaries Sarah had set. It was enough to ease Luke's mind slightly, though he couldn't deny the undercurrent of tension that still lingered. The ceremony began, voices soft, music gentle, and the warm evening light cast a glow over everyone present. Guests watched, some smiling knowingly at the subtle drama that had unfolded before the formalities began. Children leaned on the fences, peeking curiously at the bride and groom, while older relatives whispered quietly, enjoying the peaceful scene. Even with the potential for conflict, the beauty of the ranch, the love between Luke and Sarah, and the support of their friends and family created a feeling of hope and happiness. Yet beneath it all, the presence of Alex remained a reminder that past relationships, unspoken emotions, and the choices we make can all converge on a single day, creating moments of tension, understanding, and unexpected lessons. By the time the ceremony reached its conclusion, Sarah and Luke exchanged vows, hands intertwined, voices steady, and hearts full. The tension eased further, replaced by smiles, laughter, and the beginning of a celebration that would last into the night. The first part of their story was complete, but everyone present could feel that this day, while joyful, had only just begun to unfold its layers of emotion, surprises, and unexpected connections. After the ceremony, the ranch yard began to buzz with a new kind of energy. Guests moved toward the long wooden tables set up for the feast, their laughter and chatter mingling with the soft sounds of a country band playing near the barn. Lanterns hung from the trees, casting a warm golden glow over the scene, making the ranch feel almost magical as night slowly settled in. Children ran barefoot across the grass, chasing fireflies, while older guests shared stories of weddings and cattle drives from years gone by. Luke and Sarah walked through the gathering hand in hand, waving to relatives and making sure everyone had what they needed. For a moment, it seemed as if all worries from earlier had melted away. But even as they smiled and laughed with their guests, the memory of Alex lingered in Sarah's mind. She could feel it like a shadow, quiet but persistent. It wasn't that she didn't trust Luke. It was simply that seeing Alex again had stirred old memories, memories of trust, friendship, and the way life had been when she was younger. Alex had found a quiet corner near the edge of the celebration, standing slightly apart from the crowd. He watched Sarah laugh with Luke, noting how happy she seemed, yet he could tell she was trying to suppress something. He knew he shouldn't have come, that he had overstepped, but part of him had needed to see her, to make sure she was all right. When he first heard of her wedding, his first thought was to send a card or a gift, but something stronger had made him drive all the way out here. It was instinct, the pull of years of friendship and care. Sarah noticed Alex for a moment and felt a rush of conflicting emotions. She remembered how, as a teenager, Alex had been there when she was scared during a late-night storm at the ranch, holding her hand and calming her down. She remembered how he had once stood up to bullies who teased her in school, protecting her quietly and without seeking recognition. Those memories made her grateful, yet uncomfortable. Today was her wedding day, and she wanted nothing to overshadow her celebration. Luke, meanwhile, sensed the tension building again. Even though the ceremony had gone smoothly, he couldn't ignore the subtle glances, the moments when Sarah's attention seemed to drift. He took her aside for a moment near the barn, where the lantern light made everything feel softer and more private. "Are you all right?" he asked gently. Sarah took a deep breath. "I'm fine," she said, though her voice carried a hint of uncertainty. "It's just Alex being here. I didn't expect it. I just want today to be about us." Luke nodded, his brow furrowing slightly. "I understand, and I promise I'll make sure he doesn't cause any trouble, but try not to let it worry you too much. He's not here to hurt anyone." Sarah forced a smile, grateful for Luke's calm presence, but her heart still felt heavy. She decided she needed a moment to herself, so she wandered toward the open field at the edge of the ranch. The soft grass brushed against her dress, and the smell of fresh earth and wildflowers calmed her. She could hear the faint strains of music and laughter in the distance, but here, in the quiet of the field, she allowed herself to think, to breathe. Alex noticed her slipping away from the crowd and followed at a distance. He didn't want to intrude, but he also didn't want to leave without making sure she was okay. He finally caught up when she paused near a small creek that ran along the edge of the property. "Sarah," he said softly, careful not to startle her. She turned quickly, her heart skipping a beat. "Alex, I told you this isn't the time or place," she said, trying to keep her voice calm. "I know," he replied, hands raised in a gesture of peace. "I just wanted to make sure you're all right. I didn't come to ruin anything, I promise." Sarah studied him for a moment, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. She remembered all the ways he had been there for her in the past, and despite her nervousness, a small part of her felt comforted. "I appreciate that," she said finally, her voice softer. "But you have to understand today is for Luke and me. That has to come first." Alex nodded. "I understand completely. I'll stay out of the way. I just wanted you to know that I still care about your happiness." Sarah felt a warmth in her chest. It wasn't love anymore. It was something quieter, steadier. Gratitude, respect, and a connection that could exist without causing problems. "Thank you," she said. "I needed to hear that." Meanwhile, back at the barn, Luke was keeping a careful eye on the festivities. He had noticed the quiet exchange between Sarah and Alex, though he didn't understand all the details. He trusted Sarah, but a small knot of jealousy had formed in his chest. He couldn't deny that seeing them together, even briefly, stirred something he didn't like. Yet he also saw the way Alex behaved, respectful, careful, not trying to draw attention. It was clear that Alex's intentions were honorable. The evening continued, and the first course of the dinner was served. Guests began to eat, toast, and chat, and slowly the tension started to fade from the air. Children ran through the fields chasing fireflies, while adults shared stories of weddings and family life. Luke found himself relaxing as he saw Sarah laughing with her friends, and even Alex, from his corner, smiled quietly, enjoying the happiness around him. As the night deepened, a gentle breeze swept across the ranch, rustling the leaves and carrying the faint scent of roasted meat and fresh bread. The band played a slow, melodic tune, and couples began to dance. Luke took Sarah's hand and led her to the dance area, spinning her gently under the lantern light. For a few moments, all the worries melted away. This was the life they had dreamed of, a life full of love, laughter, and shared moments under the wide-open sky. Alex, watching from a distance, felt a mixture of relief and quiet sadness. He knew he couldn't be part of this celebration in the same way he had once been, but he also knew that being here, witnessing Sarah's happiness, was enough. Sometimes caring for someone meant stepping back, even when it was hard. Later, as the night progressed, a small group of family members gathered near the bonfire outside the barn. They told stories, laughed, and reminisced about the ranch and its history. Luke joined them briefly, but his attention kept returning to Sarah, who was dancing with friends and laughing freely. He realized that despite the earlier tension, the day had unfolded beautifully. The presence of Alex had introduced an unexpected challenge, but it hadn't ruined anything. If anything, it had reminded him of the importance of trust, understanding, and giving people the benefit of the doubt. In the quiet moments, when Sarah stepped away from the dance floor to rest and take in the night sky, she felt a sense of peace. The lanterns reflected off her eyes, and the stars above seemed to mirror the warmth in her heart. She had navigated an unexpected challenge gracefully, keeping her focus on the present and on Luke. She knew that Alex's presence had stirred old memories, but it had also reminded her of the strength of her own choices and the love she shared with her husband. As the first part of the evening drew to a close, the barn was filled with laughter, music, and a sense of community. Guests shared smiles and quiet conversations. Children fell asleep in the arms of tired parents, and the ranch itself seemed to breathe a sigh of contentment. Luke and Sarah stood together, watching their friends and family enjoy the celebration they had worked so hard to plan. The tension of the day had eased, replaced by a quiet understanding that life was full of unexpected moments, and how they handled them defined the strength of their relationships. Even Alex, standing at the edge of the festivities, could feel it. The night hadn't gone perfectly, but it had gone well. His presence had introduced a moment of unease, yes, but it had also reminded everyone involved of the importance of respect, patience, and understanding. He smiled quietly, satisfied that he had done the right thing by stepping back and allowing the couple to focus on their day. By the end of the evening, Luke and Sarah were exhausted but happy. The ranch was quiet now, the lanterns casting a soft glow over the fields. They walked hand in hand toward the house, hearts full and spirits lifted, ready to begin their life together. The challenges of the day had tested them in small ways, but they had faced them with patience, understanding, and love. And though the story of Alex's unexpected appearance was not yet over, it had already set the stage for the deeper connections, lessons, and surprises that the night and the future would bring. As the evening wore on, the ranch began to settle into a warm rhythm. Guests were laughing, talking, and enjoying the meal under the soft glow of lanterns hung from trees and posts. Music drifted from the small band near the barn, carrying a gentle melody that made couples sway and children hum along quietly. For most of the night, it seemed like the wedding was going perfectly. Luke and Sarah moved through the crowd, smiling, thanking people for coming, and occasionally sneaking a quiet moment together to enjoy the calm after the formalities. But just as the night was reaching its most comfortable pace, a sudden problem arose that no one had anticipated. One of the trucks carrying the food from the nearby storage barn to the main reception area broke down on the dirt path leading to the ranch. The engine had seized, smoke puffed into the night air, and the driver was frantically trying to get it moving again. Guests started to murmur in confusion. Plates of food were already on the tables, but many of the main dishes were still on the way. What had been a perfect evening suddenly teetered on the edge of chaos. Luke's brow furrowed as he ran toward the truck with a few of the ranch workers. He had grown up solving problems on the ranch, moving cattle, fixing fences, handling mechanical issues. But this was different. The wedding was meant to be smooth, joyful, and full of celebration. He didn't want the guests to feel disappointed or the day to be remembered for a ruined feast. Sarah followed close behind, worry etched on her face. She watched as Luke and the workers tried to figure out the problem. "This can't be happening now," she muttered under her breath. She could see the strain in Luke's shoulders, the way he was trying to remain calm despite the sudden stress. At that moment, Alex, who had been quietly standing near the edge of the crowd, stepped forward. He had been watching the commotion unfold and instinctively knew he could help. Over the years, he had spent a lot of time on ranches in the region, learning how to handle problems like this. Not to draw attention to himself, but because he genuinely wanted to help, he walked up to Luke. "Need a hand?" Alex asked, his voice calm but confident. Luke turned toward him, surprise flashing across his face. He hesitated, unsure if he should accept the help of someone Sarah had told him to keep at a distance. But seeing the urgency of the situation, he realized there was no time for hesitation. "Yes," he said shortly. "If you know what you're doing, we could use it." Alex moved quickly to the truck, inspecting the engine and listening to the driver's explanation of what had happened. Within minutes, he had a clear plan. He directed the workers to move supplies to another vehicle nearby, suggested temporary solutions to keep the food from cooling down, and even fixed a part of the engine just enough to get the truck moving to the reception area. His calmness and efficiency impressed everyone around him. Sarah watched in amazement as Alex handled the situation with quiet competence. She felt a mix of relief and admiration. She had never forgotten how dependable he had been in the past, but seeing him step in now, without hesitation and without seeking credit, reminded her of just how trustworthy he really was. Luke, meanwhile, could feel the tension in his chest slowly easing. He had been worried that Alex's presence would cause drama, but now he was seeing a different side of him, someone who cared about the people, the celebration, and the ranch. Alex wasn't there to disrupt the day, he was there to make sure it continued smoothly. Luke couldn't help but respect that. Within a short while, the truck was moved to the reception area, the food was saved, and the guests cheered quietly, impressed by how quickly the crisis had been handled. The music picked up again and laughter returned to the tables. Guests commented on how well the problem had been solved, many unaware of exactly who had made it happen. Alex quietly stepped back, blending into the crowd, giving Luke space to take credit if he wished, though Luke made a point to thank him privately. "You really stepped up," Luke said, his voice low but sincere. "I didn't expect that, I misjudged you." Alex nodded, smiling faintly. "Just doing what needed to be done, that's all." The tension between Luke and Alex began to shift. What had once been uncertainty and suspicion turned into respect. Luke realized that sometimes, judging someone too quickly could cloud understanding. Alex had acted with integrity and skill, proving that he wasn't a threat to the wedding, or to Sarah, but a quietly reliable presence who could be trusted when it mattered most. Meanwhile, Sarah, now more relaxed, felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. She knew that she had been worried unnecessarily. Alex's actions had reminded her that not every old friendship needed to cause trouble. Sometimes, it could strengthen the bonds she already had, showing her that trust and kindness could coexist with love and commitment. She shared a quiet smile with Luke, feeling the weight of the evening's earlier tension lift away. The rest of the night unfolded beautifully after that. The band played lively tunes, and guests began to dance on the open field near the barn. Children ran barefoot through the grass, chasing each other in circles, while older guests tapped their feet or clapped along with the music. The lanterns cast a soft glow over everything, making the ranch feel like a warm, welcoming home where everyone was part of a shared story. Luke and Sarah danced together, spinning slowly under the lights. Their hands were intertwined, their laughter echoing softly in the night air. For the first time all evening, Luke allowed himself to fully relax. He realized that Alex's presence, while unexpected and initially uncomfortable, had not ruined the wedding. In fact, it had reminded him of the strength of his own choices, the importance of trust, and the value of having people around who genuinely cared. Alex, observing from a distance, felt a quiet satisfaction. He hadn't intended to become a hero, but sometimes life presented opportunities to help, and he had taken them. Seeing Sarah happy, seeing Luke accept him without hostility was reward enough. He understood that being part of someone's life didn't always mean being at the center. It sometimes meant stepping up quietly when it mattered most, and then stepping back without seeking recognition. As the night went on, more moments of laughter and joy unfolded. Guests shared stories around the bonfire, children fell asleep in their parents' arms, and friends clinked glasses in quiet toasts. Luke and Sarah stood together, watching the celebration unfold, grateful for the support and love surrounding them. The earlier tension with Alex had been transformed into a lesson about patience, understanding, and respect. Even when the music slowed and couples began to sit and rest, the sense of community and care lingered. Luke realized that trust in both marriage and friendship required openness, the willingness to accept others' intentions, and the ability to look beyond jealousy or misunderstanding. Sarah, too, reflected on the importance of acknowledging the past while focusing on the present, understanding that love could coexist with gratitude and respect for those who had helped shape her life. By the time the final song played, the ranch was quiet again, the stars shining brightly above. Lanterns flickered softly, and the warmth of the night seemed to settle over everyone. Guests began to leave gradually, expressing their thanks for the wonderful evening, while Luke and Sarah walked through the quiet fields hand in hand, their hearts full. Alex stayed at the edge of the celebration, quietly making sure everything was in order before leaving. His presence had been felt but not intrusive, a reminder that even unexpected challenges could be met with calm, skill, and integrity. Luke had learned something important that night, that sometimes the people we least expect can become the heroes in our lives, not by seeking attention, but by quietly stepping up when it matters most. As the couple returned to the ranch house, exhausted but happy, they reflected on the events of the evening. What could have been a disaster, the broken truck, the potential chaos, and the tension between old friends, had become a story of problem-solving, respect, and quiet heroism. Sarah and Luke both understood that life would continue to present unexpected challenges, but with patience, understanding, and a willingness to see the best in others, those challenges could be met gracefully. And even as Alex left the ranch quietly, without fanfare, his actions that night had left an indelible mark. He had proven that sometimes being present wasn't just about being in the same room. It was about stepping in at the right moment, doing what needed to be done, and leaving others with a sense of peace and gratitude. The night ended with a feeling of completeness. The guests had celebrated, the crisis had been averted, and Luke and Sarah had learned lessons about trust, patience, and the quiet power of integrity. The story of Alex's unexpected heroism would remain with them, a subtle but important reminder that even when emotions run high, and situations seem complicated, kindness, competence, and respect could transform potential conflict into understanding and harmony. The next morning, the ranch was quiet, bathed in the soft glow of early sunlight. The fields were still damp with dew, and the air carried the fresh scent of grass and soil. After the excitement of the wedding and the late-night celebrations, the guests were slowly making their way home. Only a few close relatives remained, helping clean up and putting things back in order. Luke and Sarah stood at the edge of the barn, watching the morning unfold, their hands intertwined, feeling the calm after the storm of the previous night. Despite the sense of relief, Luke couldn't shake the thoughts about Alex. He had witnessed Alex's skill and calm during the truck incident, and it had left him reconsidering the way he had judged him. It wasn't easy for Luke to admit, but he had misjudged Alex at first. What he had initially seen as a potential threat was, in fact, someone who cared enough to act without hesitation or expectation of reward. Sarah noticed Luke's thoughtful expression and squeezed his hand gently. "You're thinking about last night, aren't you?" she asked softly. Luke nodded. "Yeah, I didn't realize how much I misjudged him. He didn't come to cause trouble, he just stepped in when it mattered. I can't ignore that." Sarah smiled faintly. "I know, I saw it too. And it reminded me that people's intentions aren't always what they seem at first. Sometimes, they just need the chance to show their true character." Luke looked at her and felt a deep gratitude. He was lucky to have someone like Sarah by his side, someone who could see past fear and judgment and understand people for who they really were. He realized that their relationship wasn't just built on love, but also on trust, understanding, and the ability to navigate challenges together. Meanwhile, Alex had returned to the edge of the property to collect his things. He had spent the previous night helping when needed, but now it was time for him to leave. Before he went, he approached Luke quietly. "I just wanted to say thank you for trusting me yesterday and for letting me help. That's all I wanted." Luke looked at him, searching for the right words. I misjudged you. I thought you were here to cause trouble, but you've proven otherwise. You helped Sarah and everyone else more than I expected. I appreciate it." Alex nodded, a faint smile on his face. "I understand. And I respect the boundaries you've set. I'm glad I could help without causing problems. That's all I wanted." With a firm handshake, they acknowledged each other's intentions. Luke felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He realized that holding onto suspicion or jealousy would only create tension, while giving people the benefit of the doubt could lead to understanding and respect. Sarah joined them, standing between the two men. "I'm grateful too," she said quietly. "Not just for what you did, Alex, but for the way you handled everything. You didn't overstep and you didn't make anyone uncomfortable. You just helped. That means a lot." Alex nodded again. "I'm glad. That's all I wanted, to help without causing problems. You deserve a happy day, and I didn't want to ruin it." Luke smiled, feeling a sense of relief. The tension that had clouded the wedding was now replaced with understanding and mutual respect. He realized that sometimes, the most difficult situations revealed the best in people, and that judging too quickly could prevent meaningful connections from forming. As the morning progressed, the ranch workers began preparing for the final cleanup. Tables were being packed away, decorations carefully removed, and the barn swept of any stray hay or dirt. Guests who had stayed overnight were slowly saying their goodbyes, expressing gratitude for the hospitality and the memorable celebration. The air was filled with laughter, stories, and the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. Sarah and Luke took a moment to walk through the fields together, enjoying the peacefulness of the morning. The sun had risen higher now, casting warm light over the rolling hills and cattle grazing in the distance. Sarah leaned her head against Luke's shoulder, feeling the comfort and safety of being with someone who loved her deeply. "It feels nice to finally breathe," she said softly. "After all the excitement, the tension, it's peaceful now." Luke nodded. "It is, and I think we learned a lot from yesterday, about trust, about understanding people, and about letting go of unnecessary worry." Sarah smiled. "Yes, and about gratitude. Even when someone comes into our lives unexpectedly, their actions can remind us of what really matters." Meanwhile, Alex was finishing gathering his belongings near the edge of the ranch. He had enjoyed being there, not just because of the chance to help, but also because it reminded him of his friendship with Sarah and the community he had grown up in. He knew that his role in the wedding was subtle, quiet, and temporary, but it had made a difference. He felt satisfied knowing he had helped without overstepping, and that the bond between Luke and Sarah remained strong and unshaken. Before leaving, Alex paused near the barn one last time. He watched as Sarah and Luke shared a quiet conversation, laughing softly, enjoying each other's company. He felt a sense of closure. His presence had been necessary at one point, but now it was time to step away and allow the couple to fully enjoy their new life together. Luke approached him one final time. "Take care, Alex," he said sincerely, "and thank you again for everything." Alex nodded, a calm smile on his face. "You too, Luke, take care of each other." As Alex left, Sarah watched him disappear down the dirt road, feeling a mix of emotions. Gratitude, relief, and a quiet understanding that some relationships, though important, were meant to exist without taking center stage. She turned back to Luke, who took her hand in his once more, and together they walked back toward the ranch house. The rest of the morning was spent finishing the cleanup and sharing final moments with the remaining family members. Conversations flowed easily, smiles were exchanged, and the warmth of the community lingered in the air. Sarah felt a deep sense of happiness, knowing that despite the unexpected tension and challenges, everything had turned out beautifully. Luke noticed the way Sarah's face lit up as she laughed with friends, and he felt a deep sense of pride and love. Their wedding day had been more than just a celebration. It had been a lesson in patience, trust, and understanding. He realized that life would continue to bring unexpected challenges, but facing them together, with calmness and respect, could transform even potential conflicts into moments of growth. As the sun climbed higher, the ranch returned to its normal rhythm. Cattle grazed quietly in the fields, the barn doors swung open and closed with the breeze, and the remnants of the celebration were slowly packed away. Sarah and Luke sat on the porch, holding hands, feeling the warmth of the sun and the comfort of being together. "I'm glad yesterday is behind us," Luke said quietly, "but I'm even more grateful for what we learned about trust and about letting people show who they really are." Sarah nodded. "Yes, and about understanding. Not everyone who challenges us is a threat. Sometimes they remind us of what really matters." They shared a quiet smile, the kind that comes from shared experiences and deep understanding. The morning had been peaceful, but it had also brought clarity. The tension from Alex's presence, the crisis with the truck, and the unexpected challenges of the wedding had all taught them something important about life, love, and relationships. By the time the cleanup was complete and the last guests had left, Luke and Sarah stood together, taking in the quiet beauty of the ranch. The wind rustled through the trees, the cattle moved slowly across the fields, and the lanterns, now unlit, still reflected faintly in the morning light. Everything was in its place, calm and orderly, yet alive with the memory of the night before. Luke turned to Sarah, taking both her hands in his. "No matter what comes next, we'll face it together," he said. Sarah smiled, feeling the truth of his words. "Yes, together," she agreed. And with that, they walked toward the house, ready to begin the next chapter of their lives, carrying with them the lessons, gratitude, and quiet understanding of a wedding day that had tested their patience, trust, and love, but ultimately strengthened all three. Even Alex, driving down the dusty country road away from the ranch, carried a sense of peace. He knew that his role in the story had been subtle, almost invisible, yet important. He had stepped up when it mattered, helped without creating conflict, and left the couple with their happiness intact. Sometimes, life didn't need grand gestures to create lasting impact. Sometimes, quiet actions at the right moment were all that mattered. The day had begun with tension, uncertainty, and the weight of old memories, but it ended with clarity, understanding, and new respect among all who were involved. Luke and Sarah's bond was stronger. Alex had proven his integrity, and the community around them had witnessed the power of trust, patience, and quiet courage. The ranch was quiet in the early morning hours, the sun rising slowly over the fields and casting a golden glow across the land. The wedding was over, the guests had gone home, and the barn and tables had been cleaned and packed away. Yet even in the calm, the energy of the previous day lingered, as if the land itself remembered the laughter, the music, and the shared moments of joy. Luke and Sarah stood on the porch of the ranch house, holding hands and watching the cattle graze quietly in the fields. It had been a day full of unexpected moments, tension, surprises, and challenges, but it had also been a day that strengthened their bond. Luke looked at Sarah and felt a deep sense of gratitude. She had been patient, understanding, and kind, navigating moments that could have been difficult with grace. He realized that their wedding was more than a celebration. It had been a lesson in love, trust, and resilience. Sarah leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. "It feels like everything has settled now," she said softly. "The wedding, the guests, even Alex, it's all behind us." Luke nodded. "Yes, and I think we've learned a lot. About patience, about trust, and about letting people show who they really are." Sarah smiled faintly. "And about gratitude, not just for the help we received, but for understanding, and for the moments that remind us of what truly matters." Even as they spoke, Luke could hear the soft sounds of the ranch coming to life. Horses moving in their stables, the faint clatter of buckets being set out, and the distant call of a cow from the far field. Life at the ranch had returned to its usual rhythm, steady and predictable, but with a newfound warmth. The events of the wedding had left a lasting impression, reminding everyone involved of the importance of kindness, respect, and quiet courage. Alex had left the ranch earlier that morning, driving down the dusty road that led away from the property. He felt a sense of satisfaction and peace, knowing that he had contributed without causing conflict. His presence had been unexpected, but he had handled the moments with patience and integrity. He knew that stepping back when it was needed was sometimes just as important as stepping up. Back at the ranch, the remaining guests and family members joined Luke and Sarah for a simple breakfast. The food was home-cooked and hearty, reflecting the warmth of the community that had gathered to celebrate with them. Conversations were light, filled with laughter and shared memories of the previous evening. Children ran around the yard, chasing each other with carefree joy, while adults shared quiet smiles and knowing glances. Luke and Sarah took a moment to walk through the fields, enjoying the calm of the morning. The sun warmed their faces, and the soft rustling of the grass seemed to echo the quiet happiness they felt. "I can't believe how smoothly everything turned out in the end," Sarah said, her voice thoughtful. "Even with the unexpected moments, it all worked out perfectly." Luke smiled, squeezing her hand. "Sometimes the challenges remind us what's really important. We faced tension, we faced worry, and we faced moments that could have caused conflict, but we came through it together, stronger than before." Sarah nodded, feeling a deep sense of peace. "And it wasn't just about us. It was about everyone around us too. The people who helped, the people who cared, and the people who reminded us that kindness and patience make all the difference." They continued their walk, passing the barn where the tables and chairs had been stacked neatly, and the small creek that had reflected the moonlight the night before. The air was fresh and cool, and the world felt alive with possibility. Sarah realized that the events of the wedding had not just tested her patience, but had also strengthened her understanding of relationships, of love, friendship, and respect. Later that afternoon, as the sun began its descent, Luke and Sarah gathered with the closest family members for a quiet toast. Glasses were raised, voices filled with warmth, and everyone shared a moment of reflection on the day that had been full of joy and lessons alike. "To Luke and Sarah," someone said, and the voices echoed in agreement, "may your life together be full of happiness, understanding, and love." Luke looked around at the smiling faces, feeling a profound sense of gratitude. He realized that weddings were more than ceremonies. They were moments that revealed the strength of character, the depth of relationships, and the power of community. And in that moment, he felt certain that he and Sarah had the support, trust, and love they needed to face whatever life would bring. Sarah caught his eye and smiled, feeling a wave of emotion. "I'm grateful," she said softly, "for everything. For you for this day, and for the people who remind us what truly matters." Luke nodded, his heart full. "Me too, and we'll carry these lessons with us always." As the evening approached, the ranch took on a quiet, almost magical atmosphere. The lanterns were lit once again, casting soft shadows across the fields, and the gentle hum of the wind carried the scent of grass and flowers. The day had started with tension and uncertainty, but it had ended with peace, gratitude, and understanding. The couple stood together, watching the sun dip below the horizon, feeling the promise of tomorrow and the excitement of the life they would build together. Even Alex, far down the road, felt a sense of closure. He knew that his presence had mattered at the right moment, and that sometimes the most meaningful actions were quiet and unobtrusive. He had helped without expectation, supported without interfering, and left everyone with a sense of peace. In his heart, he carried the satisfaction of knowing he had done what was right. Back at the ranch, Luke and Sarah returned to the house, tired but happy. They shared a quiet dinner together, reflecting on the events of the past day. The challenges, the surprises, the moments of tension, they all seemed distant now, softened by the passage of time and the warmth of accomplishment. "We made it," Luke said, a soft smile on his face. Sarah laughed quietly, leaning against him. "We did, and we did it together." The night grew deeper, and the ranch became still. The sounds of the evening were gentle, the occasional rustle of leaves, the faint call of animals settling in for the night, and the soft creak of the porch swing as Luke and Sarah sat together. They felt the quiet joy of accomplishment, and the deeper understanding that life's challenges often brought the greatest lessons. In the days that followed, the wedding became a fond memory shared with friends and family. Stories of Alex's unexpected help and quiet heroism spread, reminding everyone of the power of patience, respect, and understanding. Luke and Sarah's relationship grew stronger, enriched by the lessons of trust and empathy learned during the event. They began their life together with a sense of clarity and confidence, knowing that challenges would come, but also that they could face them together. The experience of the wedding had taught them that trust, kindness, and understanding were the true foundation of love, and that sometimes the people we least expect to impact our lives leave the greatest mark. Even in the quiet moments when the ranch was still and the world seemed at rest, Luke and Sarah carried with them the lessons of that day, the importance of patience, the power of respect, and the quiet strength of integrity. They knew that life would continue to present challenges, but they also knew that together, they could navigate anything with grace and love. As the sun finally disappeared behind the hills, casting a final warm glow across the ranch, Luke and Sarah stood together, hand in hand, looking out over the fields. The world felt calm, beautiful, and full of possibility. Their wedding had been more than a celebration. It had been a journey of understanding, patience, and quiet heroism. And as they walked back toward the house, ready to start their life together, they knew that this day, with all its lessons and surprises, would remain in their hearts forever. It was a day that reminded them that love, trust, and understanding could overcome tension, that challenges could reveal the best in people, and that even the quietest actions could leave a lasting impact.